were to give us your assessment of how ready we are in terms of digital transformation?
In my view, I think we are ready. So now I think it's all about getting the right services, connecting with the citizens, communication infrastructure, internet access. Then the connectivity of citizens are very good because we have excellent penetration of smartphones. So I think we have all the necessary ingredients to get started in this journey. If you have government being a lot more efficient, if government is more transparent, more cost effective, that has impact on everybody else. So therefore I think it is very important that government takes this initiative and they move forward on this.
Sri Lanka is gearing up for digital transformation. We're going to talk about all this and more with the CEO of Affno Group, Suren Kannangara. Stay tuned.
Some bonds give more returns, get more security and more interest on your fixed deposits from Sri Lanka's largest finance company, LMDtv Finance.
Hello and welcome to LMDtv. The topic of discussion today is the IT industry, and with us we have the CEO of Affno Group, Suren Kannangara. Suren, thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much for inviting me for this program.
Thank you. To start off our discussion, the IT sector is one of the biggest and I think most eventful sectors right now, because the importance of digital and digital transformation has been heightened to a very big level. And we are also talking about digital transformation in terms of not only organizations but the country per se. If you were to give us your assessment of how ready we are in terms of digital transformation, what would you say?
Yeah, that's a good question. In my view, I think we are ready, and I believe we have been ready for a while. So now I think it's all about getting the right services and connecting with the citizens and making this whole digital economy happen. So let me just kind of give you a few points. So if you take communication infrastructure, it's really good. We have internet access to most parts of the country. If you take our legal framework to doing e-business, it's fairly good. Then the connectivity of citizens are very good because we have excellent penetration of smartphones. And then again, when you take things like digital payment channels, again, we have a lot of choice. So I think we have all the necessary ingredients to get started in this journey.
What do we not have?
So I think there is a gap in knowledge, I think. So when you take Sri Lanka, you have the Western province and then you have the rest of the country. Western province people know what this journey is all about, but when you take the rest of the country, they don't have that know-how. So I think there is a lot of education that needs to be done.
And like you said, we have most of the ingredients and a few gaps. And of course, we have the economic situation of the country, against all of this. How did that impact Sri Lanka's plans towards digitization?
So I see it slightly differently. I see, when you're doing badly, IT is a good enabler. So IT will create transparency. It will help you to be more efficient, and also it helps to reduce costs. So I think the need of the hour is that now, right? So in some sense, we should really accelerate these programs and get connected within Sri Lanka as well as connected outside.
reducing costs, I think that is a very pertinent thing for us to talk about. So I'm going to be the devil's advocate here and ask you, so we are seeing the government is really accelerating plans towards digital transformation. Someone might say that at this point we might have other priorities as well. So how affordable is digital transformation for us, and can we afford it?
Yeah, so again, if you look at it from a government's point of view, if you have government being a lot more efficient, if government is more transparent, more cost effective, that has an impact on everybody else. Private sector can do better business, citizens can engage with the government better. So therefore, I think it is very important that government takes this initiative and they move forward on this.
And for them to move forward, if I ask you any priority areas that should be the first focus, what would it be?
I would say, when you look at the citizens, you have to identify what their pain areas are. So you have to, sometimes these pain areas are very simple, right? We saw that with the fuel crisis. It just took us a simple app to solve a huge problem. So likewise, you have to look at what are all the pain areas currently people are having and address those first before going into very large infrastructure projects which will cost a lot of money. So if you do projects where the citizens see a benefit, then they will be also part of this whole journey.
Any examples that we can, like you said, the QR code is probably like a really good case study. If you look at examples from the region on how digital transformation has helped mostly, let's say, developing nations, anything that you would like to share?
Yes, so I would take a case study from Bahrain. So the government of Bahrain embarked on this whole digital journey almost 12, 13 years ago. And we have been fortunate to be part of that program. And we have done a lot of work to help the government of Bahrain. So what they did is they looked at it in 3 stages. So first stage was do quick things to help the citizens. So for example, eliminate queues at government departments. So it's a simple thing that you can solve the problem, having, electronically book your appointments. So they did a lot of small initiatives so that you got the citizens to buy into this. So citizens saw there is a change. Government is trying to be more efficient. Then stage 2 was changing how government institutes worked. A lot of the government institutes were taking like 6 to 8 weeks to approve something, right?
It's not just Sri Lanka.
It's not only Sri Lanka. So what they looked at it is, they realized, their processes were outdated. They had to re-engineer their business processes, bring in electronic workflows so that they could put in KPI saying, let's something that they used to do in 6 to 8 weeks, let's do it in 1 week, right? So then there was a huge citizen impact. Then the third area they looked at it is how do you interconnect government institutes, right? So that is a bigger project and it takes a longer time. So if I give you an example, let's say you want to build a house. So today you will have to get your plan approved, then you have to go to your electricity board and get an electricity connection, you have to go to the water department, get a water connection, then maybe drainage. So you have so many organizations that you have to go. But from a citizen's point of view, all you want to do is build a house, right? So what they did is they interconnected these different organizations and provided an end-to-end service to the citizens. So I would think Bahrain is a very good case study because it's also a small country, a lot smaller than our country. So I think we can embark on a similar strategy in Sri Lanka.
Because we've already had one quick win with the QR code.
That's right, yes.
On to the next 2 phases. You spoke of something very interesting, which is the interconnectedness of different departments. in the same way, I think if we are to go towards the government's vision of having 15 billion, a contribution of that from the digital economy by 2030, we will also need the collaboration of different stakeholders, government, private sector, citizens. If you look at each stakeholder, I think we spoke about the government, but if we move on to talk about the private sector, what should the role be that they should be playing?
So again, if we are to kind of generate revenue like that, then all stakeholders need to be aware of it. So the problem I see is when you take Western province, companies are digitally present. They have websites, they have e-commerce sites, they use a lot of digital channels. But when you go beyond Western province, people are not aware of how they could engage. So I think there is a lot of education that the government will have to do. There is a lot of work the private sector also can do, because private sector also can get engaged, and I think there has to be a dialogue between government, private sector and the citizens to see, okay, what are the current barriers to do it. So if I take, like if you go, private sector, if you take the exporters, what are the barriers that the exporters are having with government, working with government? So can we streamline it? Can we provide services to make their export process a lot smoother? So like that we can look at different sectors and see what services government can offer to enable them to go out and get into the digital economy. So I think there's a lot of work that has to be done at the SME level, because Sri Lanka is made up of SMEs. So I think that group cannot be ignored. Without that group, I don't think we can achieve these numbers.
It's time to take a very short break, but we'll soon be back to talk more about the IT industry.
Display your brand message on digital screens at prime locations. The largest digital advertising network in Sri Lanka. Emerging Media.
You're mobile, and so are we.
Gets me going.
Grab the Lite 87 app at the Apple App Store or Google Play now.
87.8 and 87.6 island-wide. Lite 87.
Welcome back to the show. We're talking with the CEO of Affno Group, Suren Kannangara. I really like that you mentioned that, but when it comes to SMEs, we see, of course, like you said, awareness issues, but also we see issues of, maybe business model inefficiencies and process inefficiencies. What should we do? Because 80% of our businesses are SMEs. If you look at a starting point of how we can get them involved in the digital journey, what would you say?
So one is that awareness. So the other is, a lot of people have this misconception, just because you build an e-commerce site, now suddenly you will get a lot of orders and things will happen, right? So it is the service delivery that matters. It is end-to-end service delivery. So if we are to tap into the SMEs, we have to understand what these organizations are. Are they able to provide good products and services? Can they deliver? All these aspects has to be looked at. Right? So we are, as a company, we are also engaged in that. Yeah. So we have a platform to connect SMEs with the Western province business also. While doing that, we realize these SMEs are at all different stages. Yeah. So initially you think, okay, you connect them digitally, they can now come and do business with any company in the Western province. But then you realize you have to have a system to grade them, you have to have a system to rate them, you have to tell them, how to present themselves. So there's a lot of groundwork that has to be done.
Structurally, and I think
correct.
The roots have issues in them.
Exactly. So I think again, instead of each of them having their own presence, it is better to have different platforms coming in place, and the platforms setting up different standards, so that way there is credibility, and and you can expand that to even outside Sri Lanka. If the platforms have credibility, then even a buyer company outside the country would want to engage with the suppliers.
Lots of work to be done, definitely.
Absolutely.
Suren, we spoke of the government, the private sector and SMEs. If we also talk about the consumer side of it, the general public, like you said, they were pushed towards digital transformation. I don't exactly know how the situation is now, but how can we get their buy-in?
So if you take the general public, if you give a service that is useful to them, people use it. So the question is, what is useful? So first of all, you have to understand what are their pain areas. What is it that an average citizen wants? And again, I think we can't be, I keep saying this Western province because I see Sri Lanka like almost two countries.
Yes.
Right, so we have Western province and everybody is outside, majority is outside. So we have to talk to all stakeholders, I mean all citizens across this country, and understand what are the services that they really want. And if we bring those in, usage will automatically go up. So I know when a lot of people have this thing, okay, a lot of e-commerce platforms have failed. So sometimes when you look at it, I mean, e-commerce may not be the, thing that a lot of people outside Western province is looking for, right? So they have bigger problems, right? So farmers wanting to sell their produce, how do they get connected? How does the SMEs get connected with the bigger companies in Colombo? So there are lots of bigger problems that they have. So if we engage them and have a good dialogue, we can identify a set of services that would be valuable to them. If it is valuable, then definitely they will use it.
Definitely. It's not just the digital side of it.
Correct.
Suren, we've been talking about a lot of things, but I want to focus a little bit more on the IT industry per se. The national agenda is clear and the contributions needed by the stakeholders are clear. But when you look at our industry, are there any challenges that are dampening progress right now for industry players?
IT sector specifically?
Yes.
No, I think I'm of course always optimistic. So I think we are moving into an era where digital economies are going to grow in Sri Lanka and elsewhere. So for IT companies, there will be a lot of opportunities. So I think COVID had its own problems, but I think COVID in some sense accelerated the digitization process and brought a lot of opportunities to the IT sector. So I think IT sector will continue to grow. And I think we can be optimistic that is a sector that will grow fairly fast.
I'm of course going to always be the devil's advocate here. We saw we are seeing the massive brain drain happening, and like they say, you can't morally and ethically keep someone from going overseas. How is the sector handling this?
So I think you have to kind of take a view. If somebody wants to migrate and they feel another country can give them better opportunity, then they should have that freedom. What you said is absolutely right. So it is a question of how are we going to create more opportunities for people. So if we are able to, then there's no reason for them to go. But anyway, there will be a percentage who will go. But I think people leaving the country also on the longer run will have a benefit to Sri Lanka as well, right? So you can't, there is a brain drain, but then eventually they will also contribute in different ways. But my thing is, it is our job, if we are sitting in Sri Lanka, to create the opportunity. So if we are not going to create the opportunity, then people are going to leave.
Of course. Suren, when we talk of keeping people and retaining them, we should also talk about how competitive the Sri Lankan IT industry is. Let's take one aspect, salaries and compensation. how competitive are we in that area?
So I think when you compare the IT sector with other sectors, I think IT sector salary scales are very good. Right? So the issue is we find it very difficult to keep up with the cost of living. So because the cost of living is changing very fast. And also now when you are working for the IT industry, location now it doesn't matter, right? So you can be in Sri Lanka and work for any company anywhere in the world, and now, like we just discussed, people are leaving the country. So within, when you compare with the other sectors, IT sector is compensation structure is very good. But when you compare with the global industry, Sri Lanka is behind for obvious reasons, right? So we won't be able to get to that point very fast.
Yeah. How would you recommend the sector and of course Sri Lanka as a whole to attract more people into IT? Because I think we can all agree that it is going to be the main enabler towards going into our digital economy goals.
So I think we have to start at school level. So we have to kind of teach the children the opportunities in IT. So, long years ago, if you were coming into IT, generally it was for programming, right? So IT and programming was together. But now when you say the IT industry, there are so many opportunities, from security to networking to programming to business analysis, project management. So there are so many aspects. So I think we need to start at school level and teach children that there is a big industry and there is opportunity in Sri Lanka and outside Sri Lanka.
Yeah, not to restrict.
Not to restrict, correct.
And afterwards, I mean, we talk of tertiary education, how still there are gaps. And like you said, now there's not only just one avenue, there's multiple avenues. How do you think we should, maintain that momentum from school onwards until they become industry ready?
Yeah, I think the school IT curriculums needs to be relooked at and probably kind of give the students a broader experience, broader picture, so that they kind of understand IT. And definitely we need to increase IT capacity. So our state universities doesn't have that capacity to produce the IT graduates that we are looking for. So we have to look at so many other channels. So we have the private universities, but then everyone can't afford it. So we may have to even look at other channels. So English education for students in all parts of Sri Lanka is very important. So if they know English well, then they can learn IT on their own. So there are lots of IT courses online. So they don't, even if they are unable to go to university, there is alternate avenues for them to learn IT.
That has to be encouraged.
Absolutely.
Suren, it's been such a delightful conversation. But before we let you go, what are your concluding thoughts for our audience today?
So I think we are in a very exciting period, especially when it comes to IT. So, we are just starting a digital journey in Sri Lanka. So that will create a lot of opportunities for a lot of companies. So even if you're not an IT company, you must have a strategy on how you become part of this whole digital journey. And then we also hear about AI and what AI is going to do. So I think for the younger people, they need to also look at whatever the profession you're going to get into, whether it is medicine or architecture or law, AI will play a big part. So I think part of your education, IT needs to be one element that you have to look at.
Thank you, Suren.
Thank you so much.
We've been in conversation with the CEO of Affno Group, Suren Kannangara. Suren, thank you for a delightful conversation.
Thank you very much.
And to all our viewers, thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, take care.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for watching and stay safe.